This NSX has been sitting there in that spot, untouched for 22 years. I don't even let anybody go back and walk around it because I figure if there's one scratch in it, I blame me.
Hey!
Oh, how's it going, Larry?
Good to see you. Come
Long
on
time
in.
no see. What do you got for me, buddy?
Well, look at this.
Holy Batman, look at that thing. It's beautiful.
Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. More on this coming up. The 1992 Acura NSX is a two-seater, rear mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car manufactured by Honda. This one is a Grand Prix White over black interior, of which only 411 were produced in this color combination. The NSX is most noted for its F-16 cockpit-inspired driving position, along with its all-aluminum semi-monocoque body, which makes the driving experience unlike most sports cars of its time, and it was famously driven on the track by Ayrton Senna and loafers, which I'm sure sold more cars than any commercial or billboard ever did. The engine is an all-aluminum 3-liter V6 featuring the Honda VTEC system and a 5-speed manual, while the automatics weren't available until 1994. In total, in 1992, Honda produced approximately 1,250 NSXs. Now, what makes this one so special is the color combo, the manual transmission, the pop-up headlights, which were later removed in the 2002 facelift, and the fact that it's been sitting in the back of this garage for 22 years untouched with 2002 original miles. This is the ultimate barn find, now looking for a new home, but first, she needs to get cleaned up. Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
I'm Larry.
Marty.
Nice
Glad
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I heard you have a pretty cool car inside.
It was cool. I don't know how cool it is anymore, but all right.
Wow, what is this?
This is a 36 Buick. It used to be a 4-door sedan, and I morphed it into I turned it into a pickup truck.
You did all this?
Yeah.
This is cool. What's this thing?
That's a 40 Ford pickup. It's that's chopped and channeled and sectioned. This has a V12 Jag in it and a turbo 400, and the back end on it is off of a 56
You can't
Plymouth.
get the seat out of that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's good enough. It's good enough.
This is why I drove all the hours to get here.
You want me to help you take that off, buddy?
Yes,
All right.
please. Oh, this is too cool. 1992?
Yes, sir.
So cool. Oh my God. So how long has it been sitting here?
I had it since brand new, but it's been in here for, I bet you, about 22, 23 years. I'm planning on selling it because I'm not getting any younger and I could use the money. And it's a shame for having that beautiful car sitting in there. Nobody gets to see it, nobody gets to enjoy it. And they are really something special. If you ever drove one, you'll know what I mean.
A few days later, the NSX arrived at the ammo studio.
I hope you ain't filming this.
No. And inside under the lights, you can really see the dust and dirt on the outside and the white mold covering the interior from years of sitting in the workshop. Step one is pretty simple. Give the NSX its first bath in over 2 decades. Once the wash towel becomes full, I put it in the sink and pull another fresh wash towel out of my bucket to avoid any cross-contamination or swirls in the paint. With the dirt lifted, I rinsed, then reapplied soap to use as my lubrication for the clay bar. As you can see and hear, the paint has a ton of contamination, likely due to being parked in his welding workshop. The rear end has a lot more contamination than the front end, simply because it was parked closer to the work area. Look at the clay bar after just a few swipes. That's all the contamination being pulled from the surface of the paint. Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful platform on which to create your very own website. You can connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content, manage your members and send email communications, and leverage audience insights all in one easy-to-use platform. Create a community on your Squarespace website with a fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and even likes. You can use their powerful blogging tools to categorize, share, and schedule posts too. You can extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. Display posts from your social profiles on your website and automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too, like this one here. Go to squarespace.com for your free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ammonyc to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Okay, now that we cleaned the outside, we're gonna focus on the inside. As you can see, there's white mold everywhere, way better than black mold, so we're in pretty good shape. First step is we're gonna hit it with lather and remove, meaning physically pick up all the junk that's in here, all the mold, and throw the towels away. Afterwards, we're gonna hit it again with lather, then with steam to help kind of kill the bacteria. The third step is we hit it with Restore, or if you don't have Restore, you can use white distilled vinegar mixed 50-50. Leave it on there for a second or two, let it do its work, then you can go in and clean it off afterwards. I like to hit it again with lather just to remove the vinegar smell, so keep that in mind. After all that's done and everything is clean, then we'll go in and use Ammo Mousse just to add some protection and kind of moisturize everything. After 22 years, it's gonna be a little bit on the crusty side, or a little bit on the stale side. So rejuvenate it, it's gonna look fantastic, and I think he's gonna be thrilled. With the wheels off and the car up on the lip, I wanted to inspect the undercarriage, then give it a healthy scrub down. On the flat bottom, you can see black dots of mold that I scrubbed away with the Ammo agitation brush and a power washer. Having mold underneath the car is also a good indication that the concrete floor was probably releasing a bit of moisture over all those years, and that's why we see it on the inside of the car as well. With the undercarriage clean, I focused on the interior. First, I removed the mold with lather and a scrub brush, and then wiped it down with a microfiber towel. Now, be sure to replace those towels frequently. Afterwards, I resprayed lather on the leather and then used the steam machine to help clean and lift any bacteria I may have missed on round one. Next, I used Ammo Restore to kill the mold and deter it from growing back by letting it sit on the material for the allotted time and then wiping it away. If you don't have Restore, you can use a 50-50 mixture of white distilled vinegar with water. Lastly, I lightly wiped with lather again to remove the Restore and to leave the material with a level pH. It's definitely a few extra steps, but I'm very sure that any mold has been safely removed. You can also use compressed air to flush out any tight spots if you have it. Now, although this car sat for 22 years, it was wrapped up like a mummy, and it was in the back of a shop, it still got mold in it. So before we get into the step-by-step process of trying to avoid that when we store a car, let's talk about how condensation happens. So let's say it's the middle of the summer, it's 80 degrees outside, the inside of your car is now 80 degrees. it drops to 60 at night. So outside of the car is 60 degrees, inside is probably somewhere near 80. The spread between the two of them is going to cause condensation and there's going to be mold. That's fairly common. But when it comes to a car, there's some tricks here. What happens is on the AC condenser, if you don't run the heat before you store the car, a lot of that moisture will come through the vents and further that condensation and further that mold. The second thing is if you don't detail the car, specifically the steering wheel, we see a lot of steering wheels turn white. That's because of the skin cells and the oils that you have in your skin. That's going to promote a lot of mold. The third thing that you can do is put something that you can find at, let's say, Walmart or whatever, put damp rid in here. And that's going to help keep the moisture down by collecting a lot of that moisture. Now, when it comes to the outside of the shop, if you can have a dehumidifier, if you can keep things moving in the shop in terms of the air, that's what really is something that people, hey, I'm going to put a cover on it and I'm going to seal up everything and it's going to be great. That's actually the opposite of what you want to do. You want to lower the windows down 1 or 2 inches. Stagnant air is your enemy here. So if you can have a fan running outside, some sort of thing to keep the air from the inside and the outside moving and exchanging all the time, you're going to minimize a lot of mold that occurs. With the mold removed and killed, I moisturized the very dry seats after the heavy scrubbing and disinfecting. The trick to rehydrating the leather is to let mousse sit for as long as you can before wiping the residual or the non-absorbed conditioner from the surface of the leather. In other words, give it some time to penetrate and absorb. So for now, I'll let it sit and come back later to buff it dry. Next, I quickly steam clean the carpets just to be extra safe and to refresh the overall interior smell. In the frunk, the same thing. Very dusty, very dirty, but I'm not super eager to hit it with a power washer since it's been sitting for so long. I also needed to lift the pop-up headlights and move the electric seats forward to clean the mold behind them. So I connected a jump box since the battery was removed years ago. Ooh. That's a good sound. Wow, and it's lit up. This is so exciting. We're not starting it, we're just... Unlock the steering wheel. Oh, the lights came up. All right, this is good. In the tight spots up front, I used the steamer with a single head instead of the tri-head for a stronger single blast. The goal here is to use the pressure from the machine to blast away the dirt in the super tight spots without using a pressure washer. On the steamer, you can see there's a button for water here as well, which will add a little bit more water than just the steam alone, but far less than a hose or a pressure washer. Steam machines with this type of capability of adding extra water is super helpful in these types of situations. I'll put a link to all the products I'm using down below. Okay, I just did a test spot and I'm super happy with the results. Now let's back up a little bit. The paint was very swirled and scratched. And if you think about it, if it was covered up and it wasn't driven, it wasn't washed, wasn't done, how could you possibly get swirls and scratches on it? That's from the cover going on and off. Now, if the cover going on and off is causing that much damage to it, it's likely that the paint is incredibly soft. Now, this era car, mid to early 90s, that kind of thing, tends to be on the softer side and incredibly thin. Sure enough, I tested it. It is crazy thin, especially the back here. The door jambs have like 0.8 to about 1.2-ish, and the rest of the car has 2, 3, some spots 4. So there's not a lot of meat on the bone for me to work with. So I said, all right, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna use a foam pad first just to kind of do the least aggressive method possible. Sure enough, it took all the swirls and scratches out, even with a very light, this is exfoliate, very light polish, just to kind of rejuvenate the skin, so to speak. Boom, took everything out. So my suspicion was correct. Very, very, very soft paint. But here's what's interesting. I'll turn this around now. I want to show you this pad. Now that is the pad that I just used. Look at the hue or the color of that, and that is a new one. It's a smaller size, but it's a new one. So you can see the color difference. That's after one pass. So what's really, see how like kind of dark yellowish it is right now? That's really telling me that we're really pulling all the junk out that I missed with the clay bars. One quick thing before I forget, when you're working on super soft paint and you're polishing it, two things you need to remember. You're gonna need more liquid. Why? Because there's more residue coming off the paint. It's soft, lots of sawdust, so to speak, is coming off the wood, off the paint. And you're gonna need to blow out your pad a whole lot more. So use a little bit more liquid and a lot more blowing out, and you'll have a much cleaner result. Because if that pad gets full of all the residue, it's gonna swirl. Why? Because it's so soft. So it's this vicious cycle. Keep that in mind. Camera now, and I just did this section. This is a perfect example of clean and dirty paint. This area is polished and this area isn't. Do you see that very faint line? Not that part, I'm gonna get that out in a second. But do you see right along here, the difference in color? That's why polishing is so critical on super soft paints that have contamination. Piano black trim and roof was very swirled out from the cover going on and off all those years. That's very soft and very sensitive paint, but the before and after was massive when I was done polishing. With all the paint now corrected, I cleaned the wheels and the original tires. Now notice the very brown discoloration when I was scrubbing the rubber. This is textbook tire browning caused from the tires sitting for many years and oxidizing. It's another strong indicator that this car, in fact, hasn't been moved in 22 years. Next, I cleaned and scrubbed all the glass. This is very common when a car is sitting for long periods of time. You'll need to scrub the glass. And this wasn't easy to do, especially on the rear hatch, but it desperately needed it. For the protection, I decided to go with traditional carnauba instead of a pure coating because I wanted to give the new owner the option to coat or not to coat. This car is likely never going to be stored outdoors or left for another 22 years, so I'm really confident regular maintenance will be performed in the future. The wheels, on the other hand, were coated with gelée wheel coating just to make future cleaning much easier before I reinstalled them. Once on the car, I followed up with mud tire dressing just to add some pop. Now clearly, they need to be changed for safe driving on the road because these are way dated out, but it's always cool to see the OEM rubber on a barn find. I did a wipe down of the engine, but it was quite clean from being sealed up for all those years. She's obviously going to need a full service before the first ride, but for now, she looks brand new. At this point, I buffed off the leftover leather conditioner to leave the seats with a matte finish while giving it plenty of time to penetrate and protect the leather. Lastly, with the NSX back down on the ground, I put the OEM floor mats in the car that were sitting in the trunk since the day he bought it. This was the very first time they ever went into the cockpit, which was pretty cool. As my last step, I signed an ammo badge, placed it on the door jamb, and eagerly awaited Marty's arrival. I can't wait to show him the car. Ooh, I think he's here. Hey!
Oh, how's it going, Larry?
Good to see you. Come
Long
on
time
in.
no see. What
Yeah.
you got for me, buddy?
Look at this.
Holy Batman, look at that thing. It's beautiful.
Unbelievable, right?
Looks like the day I just bought it.
Crazy.
I'm getting the goddamn goosebumps. It's like a religious experience.
This is
like
good.
3 days ago it was in the catacombs, and here it is now, the resurrection. The resurrection. Oh my God. You know what?
You're gonna sell
We
it now?
might have to take it off the internet. I don't know, buddy.
Back here
Yes,
had
sir.
more contamination than the front, which because this was closer to probably where you were cutting or welding or doing whatever. you're doing.
yeah.
Even with the cover on,
yeah.
it still had this. So when I polished it, you got to see all the yellow and kind of rusty, orangey kind of stuff that came off the car, contamination that came
Yes,
off.
sir.
So my pad filled up. So instead of the pad being white, it was actually yellow, orangey when I was done.
Almost like nicotine or something.
Kind of like that. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
This is awesome.
I appreciate you squeezing me in.
No worries. Happy to do it. See ya. What a character. That was so cool. The lowest mile NSX in the world. Ah, what a treat. That thing's gonna sell. If you guys are interested, I'll put a link down below. He's looking to move that thing, and I'm sure he's gonna find a new home for it. Ah, what a great job. See you guys.